We've got some great green money news for you. The Netherlands and Denmark will help create an 18 billion rand green hydrogen fund for investment in South African projects. President Cyril Ramaphosa hosting a joint working visit today with the prime ministers of those countries. And our business anchor, Rofhiwa Madzena, attending the event where several initiatives are being announced to help with the country's infrastructure and also, of course, our energy challenges. Rofhiwa, thank you so much for joining us. Some really great news and some big numbers coming out today. Just how significant are these partnerships with the Dutch and the Danish?
Extremely significant, Sally. In fact, contrary to what you may see behind me, where it's rather quiet, these hallways at the capital in Pretoria were filled with people that have heavy pockets. In fact, it was about 130 business representatives from Denmark and the Netherlands that have faith in South Africa and really just aligned with South Africa's just energy transition plan. The problem is that we don't have the resources to implement it on our own, and so they came with a lot of investment for South Africa for these projects over the next few years. I mean, just to give you a sense, there's over 100 billion rand worth of trade between the countries. And last year, funnily enough, Sally, the biggest trade export that South Africa sent to both countries was coal, as they deal with an energy crisis of their own because of the geopolitical events that have happened over the last year or so. But extremely important, Sally, and of course there were 6 partnerships that were announced today. These including tangible money and funds that will be allocated to projects across the country for the next few years that will be focusing mainly on hydrogen projects, but those who engage in wind and solar energy projects as well will also have access to that funding. But here's the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, just explaining how important the visit is, but also the pledges that have been made.
We also have the skill base to build some of the components that these projects will require. From solar to biogas, from wind to battery storage, these investments are leading one of the most important growth industries in our country. And we already have seen that in one part of our country, particularly the Northern Cape, we've been able to attract more than 100 billion of investments, and it is leading to the growth, enormous growth in that part of the country. Such investments are particularly important as our country currently faces severe electricity challenges. The development of new renewable generation capacity alongside the recovery of our own existing fleet of power stations that are coal-fueled or generated is vital for our long-term energy security.
So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about green hydrogen, how soon it's all going to happen, and whether any of the business leaders you've spoken to are at all concerned about some of the really tricky conditions we face in this country. I mean, we do have an energy crisis, we have an infrastructure crisis, and, you know, we also have industrial action quite frequently. Our wages are sometimes quite high, and that sometimes puts other investors off. Just talk to me about what they're saying to you.
That's very interesting that you bring up those points, Sally, because what it seemed as though was the conclusion amongst the foreign business investors or potential investors was that they weren't going to wait for government to change the operating environment. They were going to put in the resources to change it for themselves. So not only are they going to be providing energy sources for themselves as they expand on projects in the country over the next few years, but also they created a labour consortium, which is a fund that is going to support financially the social compact within South Africa. So the big unions were here as well, COSATU, NUMSA and others who are part of the social compact, who have agreed with these foreign businesses saying, we are happy to work with you, and the businesses saying, work with us and we will be able to compensate you, providing you with all the necessary resources, financial and otherwise. So I think that was a very important point to note in this particular engagement, Sally, is that they're not going to wait for our government to change the environment, they're going to bring in their resources. And I asked why, and the theme that is shared, or the sentiment that is shared by a lot of these business leaders or representatives, Sally, is that they have faith in South Africa. They said South Africa is endowed with amazing raw resources. We've got the amazing skill set, and we've also got a very robust financial market system. And they can work with those principles. If we've got those core values in place, everything else they can put into place. So we spoke to the Copenhagen infrastructure project as well, and this is what they say, or partners, and this is what he had to say when it comes to helping South Africa create jobs, strengthen the social compact, but also make sure that communities are not left behind as we transition into just energy.
In terms of creating skills and jobs, these projects that we build, they need to be built right, they need to be built well, and they need to last for 25, 30 years. And so unless we build those skills here, that simply doesn't happen. So it is crucial for us that those skills are scaled up and that we create those local jobs and local abilities to deliver the projects, but also to operate the projects over the long term. So without that, it doesn't work. And so we are committed to that.